So to start, fold your fabric on bias, fold it into a triangle. You can also just fold it like regularly into a rectangle as you would normally do, but I find that this gives it better drape. So now I'm going to go ahead and pin everything in place to make sure that my fabric cooperates and doesn't move on me once it's time. So once I'm satisfied, I'm just going to rule a straight line. This is where I'll take all my vertical measurements from. So I'm just going in there to chuck it properly. Then I'm measuring 6 inches down. So these 6 inches will serve as what will be on the inside, you know, when the dress folds outward. And now I'll start to take all my measurements from the 6 inches. So if you guys can see, I placed my tape on the 5-inch mark because my strap in front is going to be 5 inch long. So I will take all my vertical measurements from that 5-inch point, from the 6-inch points, but placing my tape on the 5-inch mark. I hope you guys understand. So I started by taking my bust point, then my waistline, and next I'm going to take my hip line. That's the vertical measurement of these points, and then the hemline, which is how long you want your dress to be. Then once that is done, on the third line, which is the bust line, I'm going to go ahead and take my bust measurement divided by 4, but I'm going to add 1.5 inch. So the 1/2 inch will serve as sewing allowance and the 1 inch will serve as ease, because I want this dress to have a loose fit. Then I'm also taking the same measurement on the top. That is the very first line we made. And then on the second line, which is the chest line, I'm going to take my bust measurement divided by 4. I went back and minus 1/2 inch. So my bust measurement divided by 4 minus 1/2 inch, which is what I'm marking there. Then on my hip line, I took my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch, 1/2 inch as ease, 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and 1 inch as ease. And then the hemline, I just made this 1 inch bigger than the hip line. Now I'm going ahead to connect all the points together, so you guys can see what I'm doing here, just connecting it using nice curves. At this point, I realized I did not take any measurement on my waistline, so I'm just taking what I have on my bust line minus 1 inch. If you want yours tighter, you can make it tighter, or if you're going to have a zipper or a fastener, but I want a loose fit, so I just needed to have a nice silhouette, nice loose silhouette. Now I'm going ahead to cut out my pattern. Why am I clapping so much? So now I'm just going in to trim off everything, make sure I like how everything looks. And next I'm just going to notch that point, because that is where our strap is going to go into in the front. Now it's time to cut the back. I pinned the front so it can be easy to just place it on the back and cut. Again, pinned it, folded the remaining fabric on a bias, and I'm just placing the front on the back, arranging it nicely. Then I'll go ahead and fold it to the chest line mark, you know, the second line that we marked, because that is where the back is going to stop. The back isn't having a cowl neck, so we don't need the excess on top. So now I'm just going ahead to draw this straight, which will be the back neckline, and trimming everything properly. Then now it's time to cut the back facing. So for the back facing, I made it 2 inches long. You can make yours longer. I wouldn't advise shorter so it doesn't keep popping out. So I made mine 2 inches long, and yeah. So that's our back facing. The front and the back is all done. Now it's time to cut the strap. For my strap, I made it 1.5 inches wide. For the width, 1.5 inches, basically a rectangle 1.5 inches by 15 inches. That was longer than I needed, but I'd rather have too long than not have enough. So I ended up trimming it later on, but yeah, 15 inches by 1.5 inches. And now it's time to cut the channel for the drawstrings in front. For this, I made it 2 inches by 20 inches. Again, this depends on how long your dress is and where you want the channel to start and stop. Now for the strings, I'm just cutting 1 inch rectangles, 25 inches long. So I made the strings 5 inches longer so we can have enough to tie. So here we have all our pieces, the front, the back, and everything. Now it's time to sew. So to start, I'm just folding all my straps in half and sewing them together, right sides together. So I did this for all 4 straps, the 2 straps and the 2 drawstrings, or the 2 strings, yes. Now I'm snipping it over there because I'm going to be using my bobby pin to turn it inside out, right sides out. So very easy trick. I learned, I can't remember the YouTube channel, but I saw it on the YouTube channel and it's like a lifesaver. So just snip it, put your bobby pin and then put it in, and yeah, that's it. Now all my straps are done. I think I ironed it at this point, I can't remember, but basically the straps are done. Now onto the main body. Simply place the front and the back right sides together, pin them down nicely, and go ahead and sew using your seam allowance. So once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and place my strap by that point that we notched earlier, and remember, and just pin it down in place. And I'll place the second strap at the second part of the dress. I mean, we need 2 straps, right? Then I'm going to go to the back and basically just get the midpoint, and from that midpoint I'll measure 3.5 inches to both sides, because this is where the straps will sit in the back. So there's a 7-inch mark between the 2 straps. Then I measured 12.5 inches because this is how long I decided to make my strap, and I'm just pinning it down. Make sure that your straps aren't like twisted, you don't want that, so just make sure to check. Once that is done, I'm just going ahead to place the facing, the back facing, marking the midpoint as well, and just, yeah, aligning everything nicely. Then join the back facing to the front facing. That's the fold over part that we left in the front. Yeah, just join both sides together. And now I will go ahead and just sew the back facing down. So just sew from one end to the other. Now go ahead and join the front facing and the back facing, and finish up the armhole line. So I'll go ahead and just align the middle seams to make sure everything aligned properly, and sew it together. And sew it, yeah, sewing it is already like putting it together. I don't need to add together. Basically, you guys get the point I'm trying to make. And now I'm just going to trim the excesses and top stitch the back facing so it stays where it is meant to stay, on the inside. We don't want you poking your nose where it doesn't belong. So yes, I'm just doing that, top stitching. And the next step is to hem the dress. You should probably iron your dress and make sure everything is nice before you hem it, but yeah, don't be like me. I went ahead and just hemmed it. Next, determine where you want your drawstring. I wanted mine on the left, so I went ahead and marked the point where I want the drawstrings to be, and this is where I'm going to sew on the channel. So I ironed the channel flat so it can be neat and nice, and then folded it in at the bottom over there, and I'm just going ahead to pin it in place. And I also pinned it in place at the top. Now I'll take this to my sewing machine and just sew the edges down. Sew the 2 edges down. So after sewing the 2 edges down, I went ahead and sewed a straight line down the middle of the channel to divide our channel into 2, because I want to have 2 drawstrings. I think the standard is like 2, I don't know, but basically I just divided it into 2, and I went ahead and placed my strings to my bobby pin and just push it down. Now I'm just going in to pin it in place to secure the top while I put in the second string. So after doing that, just go ahead, align it properly, make sure everything is in place, and then sew the edge down, sew the top edge down to secure the strings. And that's it, guys. Our dress is ready. I really like the drawstrings ruching details. I hope I pronounced it right. But yes, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye.